Hey guys, Josh Gowan here. Just got home from a tough day at Reelfoot Lake. It was a really slow bite. We jig fished all day with very little success. But you know what they say, bad day on the water beats a good day at work. I'm going to show you the difference between black crappie and white crappie. Most of you know, but there's still a lot of people who get confused. And working at Grizzly at the biggest crappie store in the country, I get to speak to a lot of people who show me their pictures of black crappie, which are often white crappie that are males that are black during the spawn. And it's very simple to tell, but it can be really important. If you're just out fishing and you start catching black crappie, you can change what you're doing to kind of pattern more for that fish, as opposed to if you catch white crappie, then you can also do things to help catch more white crappie. So here's the main difference: white crappie, vertical stripes. Almost all the time, you're going to be able to see the discernible vertical stripes on a white crappie. That tells you it's a white crappie. Makes no difference what color the fish is. White males turn very black during the spawn. White females color up some, not as much, but vertical stripes, white crappie. Black crappie. This one's fairly light. A few weeks ago I had some that were pitch black, but black crappie, no stripes, just specks, which is why one of their nicknames is Specks. Now, another way to tell, a lot of times, it's just the shape of the fish. Black crappie, you're going to have more of a forward forehead, like a brim. They've got a shorter nose, stub nose, which is why they're called stubbies or snubbies. Where a white crappie is going to be more V'd here in his. Oh, easy, baby. Still alive. Alright, fine. You keep your mouth shut. More V'd here in the front. Longer distance from where the forehead stops to here. Black crappie, again, shaped more like a brim. You know, they've got that big forehead on them, and I don't know the science behind it. If it has, you think about in nature, a bigger more forward forehead is usually correlated with aggression, which makes sense because black crappie are a lot more aggressive. They'll come out of the water, they fight harder. They're a lot of fun to catch. Maybe they have a bigger medulla oblongata. I don't know. To ask Bobby Boucher's mama. Anyhow, another way to check is the dorsal spines. Now, here's the dorsal fin. This one's on top. On a white crappie, 5 to 6 dorsal spines. My finger's on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No spine here. Then you get to the soft part. So 5 dorsal spines. You act right. Alright. Another white crappie. My finger's on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The rest of it's soft. So 5 dorsal spines on both these white crappie. 5 to 6. On a black crappie, 7 to 8. There you go. Poke them up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So you've got 7 dorsal spines, then you got the soft spot, which indicates a black crappie. Another way to tell, it's a little more scientific. Get out your pink measuring device. This is what my wife got me to measure my deer antlers. Anyway, if you will measure from the center of the eye to the front of the dorsal fin on a white crappie, let's see if we can get this propped up here nice for you. Alright, here's the front of the dorsal fin. Here's the center of the eye. Alright, we're looking at 4.5 inches. That distance is going to be greater than the base of the dorsal fin. The base of the dorsal fin here, 3 inches. So you've got 4.5 from the eye to the base of the dorsal fin. and then the total length of the base of the dorsal fin is 3 inches. On a black crappie, it's going to be almost exactly the same. From the center of the eye to the front of the dorsal fin on this fish, we are looking at 3.5 inches. Now if you measure the base of the dorsal fin, right at 3.5 inches, maybe a 1/16 off. So on a white crappie, from the eye, center of the eye, to the beginning of the dorsal fin, this distance is greater, significantly, than the distance of the base of the dorsal fin. On a black crappie, the distance from here to here is almost exactly the same from here to here. Another thing you can look at is black crappie have smaller mouths. Their jaws are hinged smaller. That's because for the most part they eat smaller baits. They eat more bugs. They eat smaller minnows. Where a white crappie, bigger mouth, bigger baits, eats big shad. Not that a black crappie won't, but for the most part, you'll have a bigger mouth and a bigger hinged mouth in white crappie. Black crappie prefer clear water. Our black crappie at Reelfoot, they live in 5 foot or less of water year round. The clearer the better, and they like thick, heavy vegetation. Our white crappie will suspend. All white crappie will suspend. We'll get out in deeper water. They can tolerate darker, muddy water a lot more so than specks. Specks don't like it. There's always exceptions depending on where you're at, but for the most part, your blacks are going to be in clear water, in thicker vegetation. They're going to be eating smaller baits. So if you happen to catch a speck when you're just out fishing, switching to something small, like a feather jig for us. If I'm fishing specks, I'm going to be using a feather jig, 32nd ounce, tipped with a wax worm or a Berkeley honey worm. Where with white crappie, while that same bait will work, if I've got a tough bite, you're not going to beat a minnow day in and day out. And that's how you can tell the difference. So I hope that helped, and maybe when somebody's giving me a fishing report next time and they tell me they're catching blacks and where they're catching them, and I go there and it'll be black crappie. Maybe this will help with some identification. Anyway, thanks guys.